Bonjour. Good morning. Good morning. All right. I'm very honored to be here. My name is Barb Fabre. I'm a White Earth Ojibwe, which is about 4 hours from here. And I worked for the tribe for 30 years in different capacities, including Indian child welfare. I created the White Earth Child Care. The tribe received the Child Care Development Block Grant and asked me to start a child care program. So with that, built an awesome team, and we created the White Earth Early Childhood Program. And I was, when we had that opportunity, we really wanted to increase and improve the early childhood system for White Earth. And White Earth is one of the largest tribes here in Minnesota, and it's pretty big. So we have several communities. And that's a challenge in Indian country, is that we're very remote. Our villages are very far apart and isolated sometimes. So that is a challenge in Indian country when you're trying to bring services to all the communities. But we were able to do a lot of really fun things and good things. We have 21 licensed child care providers, all tribally licensed. 19 of them are parent-aware rated. We administer early learning scholarships. We created the annual brain development conference that we hold, and this year is the 19th year. And we bring in experts and to come in and share the latest information on brain development with parents, with child care providers, with social workers, with policymakers, and they all come to White Earth. Let's see, we created the reading bookmobile, and that goes to, well, it died now, but when it was rocking, we took it to every little village and handed out lots and lots of books because we know literacy is important. We created the Father's Festival so that we can celebrate the male role model in every child's life. We created a library with a smart play spot in collaboration with the Minnesota Children's Museum. We created little free libraries throughout the reservation. So it's about bringing resources to the community, tribal community. Fast forward, I left the tribe in 2017 and start doing my work with my consulting, Indigenous Visioning. And it's kind of a boots on the ground kind of organization where we go into tribal communities and kind of do this, work with the tribes and do the same like did in White Earth. And like Rob and Andrea said, tribes know their communities, and so it's working with them, supporting them, and helping them create their early childhood dreams for their communities. I was chair of the National Indian Child Care Association for about 7 years, and so did a lot of door knocking and educating and informing in Washington, D.C. about tribal communities. Love that, and it's kind of what I still do. I'm always trying to bring a tribal voice to any table that I'm sitting at or invited to. And just December, my tribal chairman, the late Terry Tibbetts, called me and asked me to come back to the tribe as an interim education director to help work on their education program and programs and Circle of Life School. So did that, and glad to say that we finally hired a permanent education director yesterday, so I'll be kind of backing away from that. So that's about me. Now, one of the things, and I know that Andreas had a picture of this on his slide, and this is the Healthy Children's Healthy Nations booklet, and this tour that I'm going to be sharing with you kind of started with a discussion on that with Federal Reserve Bank staff and a couple other people. And we you know, all the work that Crystal done and the partners to create this is amazing. They put on some really, really awesome convenings, and the Federal Reserve Bank supported that. I mean, it was great to have tribal leaders and tribal, you know, councils and early childhood programs all in the same space, along with state and some funders. So that really kicked it off. At one of the discussions we talked about, you know, I just feel that, you know, conferences are great, and they are, but when you go back to your office and you get reply to all those emails and you get busy, and sometimes, you know, it's hard to keep that motivation or those next steps going. So we kind of talked about with a few people, it's like, well, we need to get into Indian country. We need to go to them and just listen to them and learn from them and support them in any way we can. So the Tribal Early Childhood Tour started from there. And so last September, November, we started the tours, October. And we went to, the goal was to go to all 11 tribes and the metro area, because the metro area has a pretty significant population of Native people here. And so, and they have some good programs, like Andrea said. And so we started out. We started talking to tribal leaders. We asked tribal councils to meet with us and just have that conversation, early childhood conversation. And it was pretty amazing. And Grand Portage was going through some things, and then they lost their leader. So we weren't able to put them in this report, but they will be. Then we'll produce another report. We just wanted to get some out to print, and so this was created. And we also visited the Native American Montessori program here in the metro area. So there was quite a few of us. You know, it was challenging to get all the meetings set up, but it was really great to go into every community. And one of the communities, Upper Sioux, said, nobody ever comes here. Nobody ever talks to us. Nobody asks us. So it was really humble and to go there. So then, you know, I was working with the state on the Early Childhood Systems Reform Committee, and so talking to my state colleagues, and they were like, well, we should go and tell them about the early childhood systems reform work. I said, sure. And then next thing we know, Senator Tina Smith's staff are calling. We heard you going on a tour. Can we come with? Sure, come on. And, you know, just kind of one by one. And, you know, both Andreas and Rob attended some. And so it was... Then the thought was, yes, we should invite people to come out to Indian country so they can see the community. So that's kind of why, you know, the more the merrier kind of thing. And the discussion got even deeper and richer, and there was some resources and relationship building there. So the tour, I do some work with Close the Gap by 5, a coalition here in Minnesota, and Art Rolnick sits on that advisory board of directors. And so I was talking to them about this tour, the idea of the tour, and Erica Moss said, well, yeah, I'll fund you to go. That sounds like a great idea, because Close the Gap by 5 is priority is talking about early childhood and the disparities, and unfortunately Native American children have one of the highest disparities. So they were fully supported. Talking to the Children's Defense Fund, Barty, and Barty said, you know, what are you going to do with all that information? I said, well, that's a good question. So then we talked about the summary. And she said, well, I'll fund the summary. So that was even better. And so we created this summary, and it's a work in progress. This is our first print, and we'll be adding, like I said, Grand Portage. And so they supported it. This is Chairwoman Kathy Chavers, and, you know, one of the first things she said to us is, one of the best things we can do for our community is to upgrade our early childhood system. And, you know, when we talk about early childhood system, you know, we're talking about licensed childcare, whether it's the county or state license or the tribe licenses their own. We're talking about Head Start and early Head Start, preschool, and home visiting. And then, of course, there's always relative care, which is unlicensed childcare. And so we took the opportunity to kind of get a snapshot of what each of the tribes have in their community around, you know, those programs that I just mentioned. And so that's basically what the summary is about. It's just kind of a snapshot of what's going on in there. And these tribes have their own tribal licensing programs. And so they license their own programs and their own in-home family child care, and which is an awesome thing, because that is, you know, we can ensure that, you know, that these homes are quality, they're culturally rich, and we can monitor them. And in White Earth, we spoil our child care providers. So, and we even open that up now to non-tribal members, and we license those. These are the tribes that license, and let's see. And this is our late White Earth chairman. He attended our site visit, and that in the visit he told our guests, he said, we know children in our tribal programs need something a little bit more unique. Our programs are the best resources for determining what that is and how that happens. And again, tribal communities, tribal leaders, tribal members, they know what's best for their community. This is the Smart Play Spot that we worked with with the Children's Museum and created in White Earth. And so it very much reflects our community. We have our wigwam, we have our canoe, to replicate the Minoman harvesting, and it's filled with language, and our library is the same. And so that's one of the things we heard on the tour, is that we want more language. We want early childhood programs to reflect our community, and you know, we want our children to know our language. Okay, I got time, so I got to buzz along here. We have one language immersion, and that's in Mille Lacs. And of course, all the programs do something within their programs. Just quickly, some of the successes in tribal early childhood that we've kind of heard some commonalities. And, you know, the events are well attended, and they're doing a lot of healthy food initiatives. Some of the challenges is, of course, limited or lack of childcare options, low staff wages, and recruitment and retention of qualified staff, behaviors, you know, infant care. And so these are the Head Start programs that offer wraparound services, which is critical in rural communities to have year-round, all-day services for families. And of course, like I said, we visited the Montessori American Indian Child Care, and they're here in St. Paul, awesome program, Janice LaFleur. And finally, this is probably one of the best quotes that I just loved by Leroy Staples, Fairbanks. Giving kids what they need is just like building a house. It's good to put money into the roof and sides, but the most important part is the foundation. And when we know, research tells us that 80% of the brain is developed by age 3, what does that tell you? We really, really need to focus on high-quality early childhood systems in Indian country. And Dr. Todd Risley's work talks about you know, when a child is from a middle-income family and they arrive at kindergarten with a 20,000 word vocabulary, and our kids of color and our kids from low-income families are arriving with 3,000 to 4,000 word vocabulary. So the achievement gap starts there, and that's why, you know, we're dealing with a lot of things. We are disparities in education. So miigwech for listening.